right, guys, here we go, going live. Give me a second. I'm putting together some final notes that I want to share with you today. If you can hear me, drop yes in the comments so I know, even if you're watching the replay in that way, because sometimes the audio is not doing what it's supposed to, so just let me know. Give me a thumbs up, say yes, something like that. And if you enjoyed this video, like it and share it with somebody who could benefit. But today what we're going to talk about is how you can sell more, close more sales consistently, and blow your quota and your sales goals out of the water every single month, quarter, and year, if you're not doing that already. And here's what I know. Statistically speaking, anywhere from 47% to 57% of sales reps across industries do not make quota, at least not every month. They're up one month, down the month. They make it one month, they exceed it, they blow it out, and then it's feast and famine. Right? And I'm here to tell you it does not have to be that way. And in this video, I'm going to share with you how to bridge that gap and where the gap exists. But before I do that, I'm going to be teaching a class on this. And if you'd like to get in on that class, just send me a message to this page and I'll respond to you and we'll have that conversation. Or if you're a sales manager and you want to work with me directly and have me work with your people either virtually, live like this, or bring me on location, just reach out to me and we'll talk about how to make that happen. As we go through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay of this, feel free to do that. I know a lot of you are out in the field right now working as I'm shooting this, so you may be watching the replay of this, and that's fine. But let's talk about this. As you'll see up in the topic, and I'll put my glasses on here just for a second to read what I wrote in the title itself. If you want to close more sales consistently and blow your sales goals out of the water every single month, quarter, year, watch this video. So first of all, let's talk about a misnomer that a lot of people believe to be true. And listen, if you're crushing your sales number, then you're probably not going to get anything out of this. But you might, and you might be able to mentor somebody on your sales team who's not quite getting there, and these nuggets and these insights may just help you do that. But let's just clear the air and just be very honest about something that happens in every company, small, medium, large. It's product knowledge and sales training. In fact, statistically speaking, when surveys were done, 90% of the resources of a company is spent in product knowledge training, if any is done at all. And only 10%, if that, is spent in sales training with selling skills. You survey the customers, what you realize is they want to trust, they want to build a relationship, they want somebody that can help them make the tough decisions, and somebody that's in their corner that they can rely on. And that goes down to the selling skills, but companies don't spend the time, effort, energy, and money doing that. Now, if you've been through product knowledge and sales training, congratulations. There's still a gap there, and we're going to talk about that. But and I'm not saying that product knowledge and sales training are not important. They are. And if you don't have one or the other or both, then you need to get them. That's priority number one. What I'm going to talk about right here is not going to work out for you if you don't know those things, right? And if for some reason you guys don't have a formal sales training process or have not been through sales training, reach out to me, send me a message. I can help you with that as well. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. This is not about sales training, because I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to explain it here for a second. What I have here is PK leading to ST, 47-57%, OSSG. Here's what that means. It means product knowledge and sales training is still going to leave a gap, that 47 to 57% of salespeople not making their quota every month, trying to achieve OSSG, ongoing, sustainable sales growth, right? Sustainable and predictable. There's a gap there, 47 to 57%. What's the gap? How do we bridge it? Why is product knowledge and sales training not getting it done? Well, if you listen to all the sales gurus out there, I hate that word, sales gurus out there, they'll tell you things like, you need to be asking better questions. You need to dig deeper. You need to push. Well, I'm not going to call names here. There's even a program out there that encourages you to challenge your prospects and clients. Let me tell you something. If I'm your prospect and client and you're challenging me, we're going to have a problem to begin with, okay? That's not the way to go about this. So this hard closing, aggressive, pushy, arrogant, I'll say it nicely, stuff that's out there is old school crap that nobody likes anymore. So if you're doing that and you're successful, here's what I know. I know that you don't get referrals from your customers unless you intimidate the hell out of them, and nobody wants to be around you. And so you don't get repeat business. I remember a guy, one of the first jobs that I worked outside of college, he was this loud, saber-rattling, chest-thumping, arrogant person that was constantly yelling at his customers. And I was in my early 20s. I'm like, if that's what selling is all about, you can forget that. I'm not doing it. So that was, and you know, here's my background for those of you who aren't familiar with me yet. I spent 14 years in sales. The first six were absolutely dismal. I went through 9 jobs in the first 6 years because my sales managers and my sales trainers were telling me to be pushy, aggressive, hard closing, always ABC, always be closing. That bullshit is gone. And if you're doing that, that's probably why you're not making quota. So I digress and just say all this stuff that the other sales group, and you can point to any one of them you want, all they're doing is selling you their training. And the only person they're closing is you. So stop that stuff. It's not going to serve you. Here's how I know. If you were making your quota consistently, you wouldn't be watching this. And if you are making your quota consistently, congratulations, you won. I have nothing to say to you. But if you're in the 47 to 57%, where are you getting these numbers, Dwayne? One of the leading gurus, 47% of all salespeople across industries don't make quota. Recently, Salesforce.com released a report that said in 2018, 57% of sales reps expected not to make quota. There's a reason for that. There's a reason the turnover in sales is so high. And you know what? Product knowledge and sales training is not getting it done. Do you need those? Yes. Start with that as foundation, but there's a gap there. Here's how you bridge it. I'm bringing you through this step by step. Again, before I forget, I'm doing a class on this. I'm going to do a live virtual class like this. You can get in on that. If you're interested, drop in the comments or send me a message. I'll get you the information to the class. Or if you're a sales leader or a sales manager, sales VP, and you want me to work with your team directly, we can do that live virtually, or I can come to your location and do it on site. Just reach out to me. We'll do it. But without further ado, let's jump in here. I call it comprehensive sales influence. It's my IP, my intellectual property. It's what I founded and created because those first 6 years of my sales career were horrible. 9 jobs in the first 6 years because I refused to do what the sales gurus are teaching, even the old school ones. And I'm not going to call names. They all have their merit, but it's outlived. It's gone. It's done. This world is different. No one likes to be sold to. People hide from salespeople. People hide behind email, and they refuse to engage with you. And now, in many companies, you're not just selling to one person, one decision maker. You're working with 5, 6, 7 different people on a team that you may or may not get to or able to connect with and have a conversation with. So how do you do that, right? Here's what I call the comprehensive sales influence. I'm going to take you step by step. There's a few things that you need to understand other than your sales training and your product knowledge. And the first one is this. You need to spend some time understanding the person or the people that you're selling to. Here's what I mean by that. If you haven't been through ever or recently, and you need to do it on a regular, consistent basis, because I started my company Influence Seminars 10 years ago, and I go around the country working small, medium, large size companies, and every one of my programs we do, including the comprehensive sales influence, we do this and we lay this as a foundation. You have to understand how you're wired as a sales professional, as a person, and you have to understand how all different people are wired, how they think, how they process, how they approach life, what drives them, what motivates them, what demotivates them, right? And one level that you can do that is take in a behavioral style assessment, be it DISC, be it Myers-Briggs, there's one with colors, whatever the case, whatever it is. Yes, you need to take that, but then you need somebody who can really pull it off the page and show you how each person is wired, how you're wired, and how to make the connection. Because here's the thing. Once I understand how I'm wired and I understand how the other person is wired, it's going to be really easy for me to connect with intentionally and build relationship of trust and then have conversations with people who are just like me, right? That's easy, and we do that naturally. It's difficult when there's somebody who's polar opposite, who doesn't see the way we see, think what we think, do what we do, or perceive things the way that we do. It's really difficult to get in rapport and have a conversation with those people. And sales training might give you a little bit of that or a short dose of that, but if you're not constantly refreshing that, and constantly staying on top of that and evaluating that as you go into each one of your conversations, sales conversations, then you're going to be at a disadvantage, and that's going to hinder your ability to bridge that gap between product knowledge, sales training, and ongoing sustainable sales growth. You need to understand the person, because you need to be able to communicate with them on their terms. And here's what I mean by that. Number one, you've got to be able to have a conversation with them in the way that they want. I'll give you an example. You have the dominant type personalities, the more analytical type personalities, the more people-centric, lively people, we'll call them influencers, and you have the more reserved, quiet, guarded type people, if you will. I call them the amiables, right? And so if you've ever taken the DISC assessment, it's DISC, so dominant, influencer, steady, and conscientious, I believe it's the way you do that. So you have to understand how they want to receive the information. And then you have to understand, in today's technological age, do they want to have face-to-face conversations? Knowing those people will give you a pretty good indicator if they do. Number two, do they want to communicate via email or text? And you have to be able to meet them where they are and become patient and proficient at doing that. And I know for people who are wired like me, the dominant influencer type personalities, it's painful to craft emails, to draft emails, to write text. You'd rather just pick up the phone, talk to them, or be face-to-face, but not everybody wants to do that. So if you're not communicating with them on their terms, then chances are they're disconnecting, or that they're not even willing to receive you or meet you, so you have no chance of influencing them and bringing all of this comprehensive influence together, right? So sorry about that, got stuck there for a second. The next thing I said, next thing I'd put there forth to you is, we've all heard, it's a buzzword, it's cliche, we hear it all the time. It really makes me nauseous when I hear it. We hear people say, you've got to add value. You got to add value. You got to add value. You got to add, well, what the hell does that mean? And how do you add value? I asked that question to somebody the other day, and they just rambled on and on and on and on. They circled the damn airport. They never landed the plane. I'm like, come on, man. I was fortunate enough to have two mentors of mine explain value to me. And the way that one of them explained value to me was being in alignment. Now watch this. Have you ever tried to do anything for a customer or prospect? Give something, create something, offer something, include something for a customer, only to have them say, no, thank you, don't want it, don't need it, we're not interested, or completely disconnect, or just completely not buy the solution that you were trying to provide? Or in your own personal life, have you ever tried to do something for somebody, give something to somebody, offer something, create something, something you knew that was valuable, that they should value, but then they resist it? Now, how did that make you feel? Well, it can range anywhere from a little bit of frustration to hurt to angry to confused. Why didn't they take it? It's perfect. Here's a metaphor. It's the equivalent. By the way, if you really want to dig into this stuff, jump in the class that I'm holding. I'm going to deep dive into all this stuff and take you all the way through it. And if you want that, reach out to me. Or if you're a sales manager, reach out to me. We can do it for just your team. But here's what I learned. The metaphor is basically this. Imagine for a second that you had the ideal solution. Well, let's do it this way. Imagine for a second, let's take it personal. Let's say that you have a best friend, and it's their birthday. And so you go out and you buy them the perfect gift. You know they're going to love it. You know them. It's ideal, right? But you're a last minute person like I am. And so you rush off to the store, you pick it up last minute. You come back to your house, you're looking to wrap it up, right? Because nobody's there to wrap it for you. You got to wrap it, right? So you go in the closet where all the wrapping paper is. It's their birthday, right? But you go in there and you find no birthday wrapping paper. So what do? You grab what's left over. You grab the Christmas paper. Now, this is the perfect gift, and you want to give it to them. You wanted to wrap it in birthday paper, but you had no choice. You got it in Christmas paper. You show up to the party. You hand them their gift, and they look at you like you have lost your mind. And they say, okay, thank you. And they take it and they put it aside. You're like, no, open it. You're going to love it. I mean, like, no, it's cool. I'll wait. And they don't receive it. That's the same thing we're talking about here when you try to add value to people in a way that they don't value. Or you try to give them something they don't value. The reason is because it's not aligned. And one of my mentors pointed that out to me, that we have to create aligned value. And another mentor of mine put it in the context of leadership. As sales professionals, one of the reasons that we're not making sales numbers consistently or exceeding our sales goals consistently is because we're not taking on a role of leadership. And, excuse me. And so leadership and this creating aligned value go hand in hand. Here's how it works. I got to have a conversation with another mentor of mine in leadership space. His name is John Maxwell. And if you're not familiar with Dr. John Maxwell, just go to the website, johnmaxwell.com. He is the #1 authority in leadership in the world, and has been for many years running now. He's written over 86 books, talked to every company you can imagine across the world. And I had the opportunity, because one of my certifications is part of the John Maxwell team, speaker, trainer, and coach. And so it was just one of the certifications I wanted in my business to align. But as somebody who went to get certified, we all as newbies got the chance to talk to this man one-on-one, face-to-face for 5 minutes. Now, I don't know if you've ever been in the presence of somebody you admire and respect, or somebody that you see as a celebrity, but many people, when they get that opportunity, freeze up and don't know what to say. I knew exactly what I was going to ask this man, and it had to do with the sales profession and comprehensive sales influence. In fact, this is where this whole concept of influence and my brand and my company Influence Seminars came from, was this defining moment. It was anyway, I digress. Here's the conversation. I had 5 minutes to talk with him, and he says, what can I help you with? What can I answer? I said, Dr. Maxwell, I said, you have a saying that you're quoted often as saying, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I said, I love it. I said, but I'm a little confused. What is influence in that context? And specifically, how do we leverage it as sales professionals? And why is it important? He said, real simple. He says, here it is. Leadership is influence. Influence is adding value to the lives of people. Here's the thing, though. You cannot add value to the lives of people unless you understand what it is that they already value. And at that point, I thought it was doublespeak until I remembered what my other mentor said when he said creating aligned value. And he says, Dwayne, you have to spend time, shut up, get around them, get out of your comfort zone, go to where they are. Don't expect them to come to your world. And so the way that translates into sales is that we want to speak our language on our turf, on our terms, and we expect the customer to come into there. Well, there goes a wall right there that causes us to not make our sales numbers, because they won't come into our space. They're threatened. They don't want to be sold to. We have to take our time, put our agenda aside, go hang out, do some research, listen, build relationships, ask questions, and be willing to listen to what's not being said, listen to what is being said, pay attention to where they spend their time, their effort, their energy, their money, what they complain about, what they gripe about, what they want, what they expect, what they need, what they value. And if we pay attention long enough, we start to see the trend. And then if we can take that and give them more of what they value, or help them to get what they value, even if it has nothing to do with our product or service, we influence them, and therefore we lead them, which can ultimately lead to long-term growth, business referrals, even if not direct business with them, right? So we have to see ourselves as leaders for the premise of adding aligned value. Again, if you want to learn more about this, I'm doing a class on it, Comprehensive Sales Influence. It's going to be a 6-week class. I'll do it live like this. If you want in on that class, just drop in the comments class, and I'll reach out to you, or send me a message. And if you're a sales manager, want me to do this for just your team, send me a message. Let's get a conversation started about that. But the next thing is that we need to negotiate. I know. Hang tight, right? Every time I say that, somebody says, well, we don't negotiate. We can't negotiate our prices. We don't negotiate our prices. We don't, good. You should not be negotiating. You should not be negotiating your prices. I heard a sales guru the other day, been around for a long time, pointy head. It's a mess, right? But he went off on negotiating. The only reason you want to learn how to negotiate is so you can discount your price and get less commission. But dude had no clue as to what negotiating is. And I felt sorry. I was embarrassed for the dude. This dude has a reputation. If I told you who it was, you'd be like, oh my God, had no idea, had no idea. Because what he and so many sales professionals and sales managers and sales leaders don't realize is negotiating is about 1/10 about dollars and cents. In fact, if you want a true mutually beneficial outcome for you, for your company, for your customer, you need to strive for a win-win outcome, and there's no way that's going to happen in most cases if you focus on the dollars and cents. So if it comes down to a money conversation, if you feel like you're in a market where you're constantly competing against price or selling against price or being nickel and dime, or you believe that the industry is all about the best price, then first of all, you need to learn how to negotiate, because that's only 1/10. And here's what I'll tell you is, there's always something that's more important to your customer than price, but they're always going to tell you it's price. So how do you have a conversation that gets them away from that so you can sell on value? And if there's no value there apparent, how do you create that with that aligned value? And how do you create a solution with the customer that moves them away from price and gets them focused on what's truly important? And one of the ways that you can do that through a negotiation is realizing that if you hit a wall and there seems to be no opportunity or no option or solution for you to be able to help them, to back up in that moment, and instead of admitting defeat or succumbing to the apparent reality that there's no option here, is to back up and have this conversation with your customer. Hold on one second. Suppose that. What if, how about, would you consider, what if we tried? That conversation right there many times does not happen because salespeople back off. They don't follow up. They don't push. And it's not a challenging thing. It's a co-creation thing. And there's an old saying that says people support what they help create. And you, as the leader, as a sales professional, have to lead the conversation that they're not even aware they should be having. That's a bigger part of negotiating. And there's 8 or 9 other disciplines within that space that if you'll take that, infuse it into your sales process and your sales conversations, can absolutely change the game for you. But you got to know what they are. Again, I'm doing a class on this. If you want to join me for that class, reach out to me, drop it in the comments, class, and I'll reach out to you. Or if you're a sales manager, reach out to me and we'll start that conversation. So negotiating is very important. In fact, I had a customer, Dell Computers, went out there. They brought me in for the specific intent of helping their account executives not focus on price or not offer discounts, because that tended to be the default. They wanted them to learn how to negotiate so they can keep the conversation on value and avoid offering discounts. And one of the guys that I worked with in there had been sitting on an account for 18 months. I want to say, if I remember correctly, one simple idea he took from that class that we focused on negotiations absolutely changed the game for him. Closed his first $1 million purchase order, his first $1 million deal, and attributed it all to that one simple concept that was embedded in him learning how to create aligned value in the negotiation process. So he took that leadership role. Congratulations to him. Am I saying you're going to do that? No. But what I'm saying is that if you will infuse this part of it into that comprehensive sales influence strategy, game changer. And that's how we're progressing towards bridging that gap. The next thing is this: solve relevant problems. And it goes with creating aligned value and understanding the customer and even negotiating, because that co-creation process helps you to uncover some things. But so many times, the customers will reach out to us in the later part of the buying cycle and say, this is what we need. Here's the problem we're trying to solve. And we take it at face value. And then we go on to solve that problem, only to find out that they realize it's not the best fit. And because we went in that direction, we shot ourselves in the foot. And being able to ask tough questions, dig deeper, and have the trust and respect of the customer so that we can really uncover what's really going on, or even back them up in the sales process and have them realize that, wait a minute, maybe we're solving for the wrong outcome. And being outcome centric with the customer is huge. But so many people just see the target and they go for it. And they try to solve that problem. And if it doesn't work, they're dead in the water, or they go on to the next thing. And we can't do that. There's an old saying that says sometimes fast is slow and sometimes slow is fast. And as sales professionals, we need to slow down. And we need to realize that, yes, even though it takes a little bit more time to be able to solve the problem, ask the questions, do the research, go back to the drawing board, trusting that the customer is there with us, it's not easy. How do you do that effectively, right? And we'll talk about it in that class. And finally, and this is where I'm going to get some hate mail and hate comments. Bring them on. Bring them on. I'll challenge anybody on this right here. Stop closing. Well, Dwayne, if you don't close, how are you going to get the sale? Stop closing. Mentor of mine told me this way. I heard it from 2 different places. This changed for me because I knew it, because I refused. Early in my sales career, whenever it finally started to level out, I was taught a sales process, and I was like, I'm not doing that. But fortunately, I had a manager who allowed me to approach sales the way that I, in integrity, saw fit. And I can tell you, 99.9% of the time, I did not close or use a closing line or a closing technique or try to close a customer, because that just wasn't me. I was like, if you're going to buy, you're going to buy. If you're not, you're not, right? But my focus was on everything else we just talked about. Connecting with the customer, understanding who they were, building relationship, asking the deep questions, creating solutions, solving for the right problem, listening to them as human beings, letting them drive the conversation instead of me being the egomaniac, like so many of these sales gurus are, and that they'll tell you to be. Always be closing. There's that old Glenn Ross thing. He says, put the coffee down. Coffee is for closers. And my rebuttal to that is closing is for losers. Now, here's what I mean by that. If you have to close, this is what my mentor taught me. If you have to close, you don't know how to sell. And he's absolutely right. If you have to ask for the business in a way that forces an answer, that makes them make a decision, that puts them into a corner, do you want this or that, or any of that stuff, then you've failed. And that's why 47 to 57% of people fail to make quota. And I blame this a lot on corporate America. And sales managers, because guess what, guys? You're setting goals for your sales professionals that in many cases are unrealistic based on the training that you've given them. And the whole sales industry is stressed out. There's a reason there's a meme that shows one picture of a young person and it says the beginning of my sales career, and then it says 3 weeks into my sales career, and it's an old dude, because you guys are stressing them out, right? I had a wonderful boss, my first pharmaceutical sales company. You know how competitive that industry is. He would tell us, Dwayne, he told me specifically, he said, Dwayne, sell as much as you can. Well, what's my quota? Sell as much as you can. Because here's the thing we don't have control over. We do not have control over people buying from us. Any sales manager out there or sales leader out there who would argue with me, drop it in the comments. Let's go. You're not going to win this one. You're wrong. You're wrong. But if you would empower your salespeople with the ability to serve the customer the right way, go through this process, use their good judgment, common sense, patience, and kind, generous nature to help the customer, more sales are going to close consistently than you can ever imagine. I know because I've done it in my career, been in business for myself 10 years. In my sales career, I was in the top 10, spiking the top 5 sometimes in my sales force. Did not want to be number one. I have no desire to be number one in the sales profession. My goal was to be in business for myself so I could escape that environment. But what I found is that if I didn't sell, guess what? My business didn't run. So I had a different type of quota. I guess you could say a different motivator. And that probably was stronger than any of the salespeople I had. But if you have to close, you don't know how to sell. Another way that I heard someone say it recently, and I totally wholeheartedly agree. This was many years after my mentor showed me that if you have to close, you don't have to sell. The other guy said, he said, if you do your job right, the customer will close for you, or they will close you. And it brought me back to one of the unofficial roles I had as a salesperson. At the beginning, prior to starting my company, I was going out to a local school to pitch them, if you will, on bringing me in to speak to their students. And there was money involved. They were going to have to pay me. And I remember going in there, having an hour-long conversation with the lady who was in charge of bringing me in, and just listening, dialoguing. Suppose that, what if, how about, would you consider? Very easy going, very laid back, very patient, very easy conversation. And then when we got finished, some of you would call this a close, but it wasn't really a closing statement. I simply looked at her humbly, not arrogant, not I can do this, none of that crap. You know, I just looked at her and I said, what should we do next? And then she said, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do this, 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 and then we're going to have the event. How much did you say it was? I told her. She closed me. Guys, if you do this right, you don't have to close. If you have to close, you don't know how to sell. But if you have a gap between your sales training, your product knowledge, your sales training, and that ongoing sustainable sales growth, and it's still eluding you, if you're on an emotional roller coaster or a sales roller coaster and you can't seem to get it done consistently, the answer is comprehensive sales fluence. Everything that I've just told you, that is a part of that, and I'm doing a live class on it. Reach out to me. If you want to be in on that class, drop a comment, reach out to me. If you via the messenger here. If you're a sales manager and you want me to do it for just your team, we can do that just like this, or I can come out live, reach out to me and get that conversation started. But until I go live again, take this stuff that I just showed you, apply it to your current sales process with the same effort, and I guarantee you, you're going to see an uptick in your sales. And if you do it consistently, you'll eventually get to a place where it's predictable and it's consistent. Your sales closes, the results, and the growth that you experience as a sales professional and as a sales team. Hope that has served. If it has, give it a thumbs up or a heart, and share it with somebody who can benefit from it. If you're on my Influence Seminars page on Facebook, please like it so you'll know when I go live again. Excuse me. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. But more importantly than all of that, make sure to drop a comment or a question, because if you have a question about this, I'd love to serve you. I'm going to go live like this, and I will answer your question. And make sure that if you want to take part in that comprehensive sales influence class, that you reach out to me, or if you're a manager, want me to do it for just your team, send me a message and we'll get that conversation started. Have a great day, guys. Talk soon. Bye-bye.